So I'd like us to hopefully agree to this basic statement. Over time, things change. That's profound and deep, isn't it? So 25 years ago, you could have asked me on this day, September the 12th, hey, what'd you do yesterday? And I would have said, I had dinner last night with my sister-in-law. It was her birthday. Could have said that 24 years ago, 22 years ago, 21 years ago. But in 2001, 20 years ago, I did not say that. Things changed. Before, it was just her birthday. To some of you, it was just a day. Others, maybe a tragedy has already happened on that day, or another success. Might have been an anniversary for somebody. But all of a sudden, when the terrorist attacks of September the 11th, 2001 happened, things took on a different meaning, different tone. That day became the launch pad for the war on terror and a variety of other things that ended up costing. That event is linked to the death of possibly over 1 million people. Wow. I mean, 9/11 itself had about 3,000 deaths. 2,996, I believe, was the total that ended up being called there. But 19 of those were the terrorists. So when they do the readings of the names, the moments of silence, they are looking at the 2,977 people who were in the buildings or the airplanes. And for example, there were like 411 first responders who died. There was 125 people at the Pentagon, 246 people were in the planes, and then the 2,100 plus people who were left were either in the towers or below the towers. Hundreds of people have since then died because of the fumes and the powders and the smokes that came down upon people. There's so many different conspiracy theories alive and well on this. I listened this week to the different things that were said about 9/11, and I tell you, I have more questions than answers. And I had to keep telling myself, it's in your hands, God. Because there are a lot of smart people who gave a lot of convincing arguments. And there are a lot of dumb people who made me question my own decisions. Am I really a human? Do humans sound like that? Oh my goodness. Sometimes when we look at the start and stop, the beginning and the end, there are going to be countries that will forever be 2001, 9/11, we had these 3,000 people die. And it's not that it's a competition, and it's sad that it is, but other countries are keeping tabs of how many people died. And if we look at different civilians, and if we look at different military people here or there, Iraq had the most, and then Afghanistan, and then I believe it went down to Libya and Yemen and America. There are a variety of other countries that had a lot of losses, but nearing 1 million lives have been lost as a direct result. Many of the professionals and the experts are linking to 9/11. It's the aftermath. And now that's a lot of lives as a result for a specific instance. Now, there have been a lot of other lives that have been lost or even gained in different things. So we're looking at an isolated event, but this event is not in the majority of U.S. history high school textbooks. It's too new. Now, middle school, younger, I guess they eat their books. So they have to get more books printed regularly. Maybe they have to constantly keep things hip. Meanwhile, the high schoolers, you get the old stuff, 40 years old, 30 years old. Maybe if you're lucky, 21 years old. And there's probably a few that are younger, but just that was not a big enough event to put in when they had so many other things. Because anytime they're doing history books, something's going to be added and something's going to be taken out. And so teachers take it upon themselves sometimes to educate their students, because if you think about it, this happened 20 years ago. Students in high school today, very good chance that they were not even alive when this event happened. So the connection and the meaning of it is something that happened then. You tell them about some events that happened within the last year or two, it's like they were there. But you tell them about 9/11, what was that? You tell them about the Revolutionary War, we were there. You tell them about different civil wars, we were there. I mean, the stories and the teachings, they're there. But it's interesting on some of the recent history on how that is not regularly taught. They just don't have it on the tests, I guess. I go into that because, and I try to bring this all up, because there are people who seem to think that if it didn't happen in their lifetime, it's not important. And there's other people who think that if it didn't get recorded, it's not that important. And so other people, however, have a way of sensationalizing things. And please don't think that I'm marginalizing. I'm not trying to say that 9/11 was just another day and we should not view it as anything special. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that there are people who sometimes will take something and blow it out of proportion. Listening to some of the conspiracy theories on things, listening to some of the people with different evidence about what is or isn't the facts of the matter in the history of this. There are a lot of smart people who had some smart arguments, and I don't have good answers for them. And just, God, it's in your hands. I don't know what to do with this. And so as we gather more information, as we start to listen, as we start to see what's out there, some things start to become very clear to us. And as we look at the Bible in relation to 9/11 and how things go and the value of life and how people will purport to be pro-life, yet they have various ways of killing people, and other people are pro-choice, and yet they also have ways of suspending freedoms and choices. We have a lot of hypocrisy, and sometimes you say one thing to get a buzzword, but really there are other things that you stand for. And we can get into politics another time. And it seems that it'll always be a competition of who lost more lives, this country, or these people or these people. And we look for the worst. We look for the worst in people. We look for the worst in a lot of things. But as we will see in our scripture in a moment, the days today are dark. The days are evil. Be careful what you do, because the days are dark. And it's a bit scary sometimes when we think, well, what is a dark day? Well, when we look at this idea that sometimes the things in which we do are going to fall upon blind eyes because they won't see the deeds that are being done, because there's so much evil and darkness around us. And I think many of us, especially during the pandemic, may have become frustrated to a point where we didn't want to do any more good deeds. We didn't want to do any more acts of kindness. We didn't want to be joyful anymore. It was easier to be mean. It was easier to be closed off. It was easier to have hate. Kindness, generosity, love. These are some things that we needed to maybe put more attention into. So I want us, before we to really dig into this morning's scripture, to think of the concept that we need to remember the uncertainty of life. Remember the uncertainty of life, or even that is life. The hijackers planned to die that day. All of the victims woke up that morning and they did not plan to die. What? The victims did not plan to die. Let's take a look at James chapter 4.
Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will travel to such and such a city and spend a year and do business and make a profit. You don't even know what tomorrow will bring, what your life will be. For you are a bit of smoke that appears for a little while, then vanishes.
James really hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, I mean, we can plan to go to this city and that city, maybe go on vacation, maybe make some money, but frankly, our life is like smoke, and it can be here one moment and blown away the next. I remember earlier in my life, there was a big slogan, life is short, play hard. The Christians got in on that, and life is short, pray hard. And it's interesting to see how life is short follows it. And there's so many different little quotes that were out there. And I remember seeing one that was talking about life is too short to be serious all the time. If you can't laugh at yourself, call me and I'll come laugh at you. But I mean, sometimes these are the type of things that keep us from doing anything. We get paralyzed with fear. One of the pieces that kind of holds some of this together is if you look at your calendars. Let's not look at a paper calendar, because that's limited by ink and resources. You get a digital calendar. You could start thumbing through that thing, and it goes on forever. The Mayan calendar, not in your iPhone, not on your Android. You can ask Siri and Alexa and maybe your Google Assistant some interesting trivia for those days, or even they can give you some little jokes on some stuff. But nonetheless, these calendars are no respecters of person. You can fill the pages with what you want done on them, but they will go on long after you have stopped breathing on the earth. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 1 is telling us, boast not of yourself tomorrow, for you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where it's going to go, what's going to come from it. And too many of us have all these one day, my plan is, I'm gonna. My favorite phrase among many of the kids that I coach is, I'm fitna gonna. Finna gonna. I am fitting to going to. Makes sense to them, so fitna gonna. So I say it sometimes, and people look at me like I've got a hole in my head. Well, I do, right here. It's called a mouth. Just kidding. But people who are focused on living do not see life as short. And I need to repeat that phrase. People who are focused on living do not see life as short. The people who are just trying to get by, these are the people who more often are looking back to say, what if? If only. One more thing. And maybe it makes us ask the question, do we make or do we take the most? Do we make the most of time or do we take the most of time? Some of us spend years preparing for something that we may never end up doing. How many people ended up getting a degree in a field that they are not working in? How many of your children have a degree that they are now paying off their college debt and they are not doing anything relating to that? There's a lot of people out there who have made plans, but they're so focused on the what ifs. They're so focused on just trying to get by that they're not living. Let's look here at Ephesians chapter 5 for a minute.
Be very careful how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is.
That was a good set of verses that really kind of hammered it home. We are living in dark days. We need to make sure we are making the most of every opportunity. We are watching how we live. I like a loose paraphrase of the last verse. Don't be dumb. How many of us have done dumb things? Yeah, many of us have done dumb things. In fact, some of us have done things that possibly may have sent someone else to hell because of the things in which we did. Wow, that went dark really quick, didn't it? Well, as we look at our lives and we look at the opportunities we have, many of us are missing the chance to get people to heaven. In fact, we need to start asking ourselves, how many people are in hell because we failed to act or we did not act in time? But I'm just a regular old churchgoer. I'm not even a churchgoer. I stay home and I watch it at home. And listen, God works through you, but you have to be a vessel willing to work. When we look at a bigger picture, I had a lot of stories of I love you and I'm sorry and I'll miss you, and just for the sake of time. In the Wall Street Journal, there's a reporter who was writing, and she basically was saying how the people who realized the end was near, the people who realized that their plane was going to go crashing, the people in the trade tower who knew they couldn't get out, hundreds of voicemails were sent that day. Hundreds of people called and left messages to loved ones. From what we can find, from whatever has been shared, no messages have been recovered that said, "You hurt me forever. I never liked you anyway. You're such a jerk. I just called to hang up." We don't have those. The people who had time to call, the people who knew the end was near, they made a decision. Life was reduced to its essentials. And as they looked at these essentials, time was short. So they got to the point. They said the things that mattered. And how many times do you say the things that matter? Hi. Is that as far as it goes? Do you not have a spouse because the person you've never asked? Maybe you lost your spouse because you said. When we really look down at what matters, and we look down and we break this down and we see all the different messages that the people called and left, the I love yous, I'm sorry's, I'll miss you, it was all the important stuff. And so many of us hold on to the little stuff, the petty stuff. You're not coming to my birthday party this year. You're ugly. I don't like you. You don't waste time calling and telling all these people that. Now, there are people who, that's maybe just what they are. But when you're really faced to life and death, you realize this is the end. Who do you call? Set myself up for that one, sorry. All right, Ghostbusters not included. Who do you call? Who are the people that are on your list? Who are the people that you are trying to stay in touch with? Who are the people you're trying to prepare? Jesus came to this earth so that we could have life and have it to the full, as John 10:10, the second half says. This sermon can go on and it could be stopped. There's a lot more that could be said, and it could end right here. And that's the plan on this, because when we look at all of the pieces and the trade tower and the crash and the lives that were saved and the lives that were lost, the conspiracy theories, and the idea that you have had opportunities, and this morning when you woke up, you did not intend to die. And if you did, you wanted to be dead in that. Have a little class. No, I'm just kidding. Many of us, as we look at this big picture here, we can see that things, I mean, we could take these on, and there's more examples. If you want to see them, call me up and I can share you some of the different calls in the list that people made. But most people here who are watching right now are not expecting to die. The people that were there in the Trade Center, the people that actually showed up, they were not expecting to die that day. Many people die all over the world in times when they were not expecting. So that tells us time is precious. Make the most of every opportunity. If life is uncertain and you need to make sure that you've got your orders of priorities, I'll tell you that death is certain. We know it's going to happen. We don't know when or where and exactly what it is, but we know all people will die. But uncertainty means we must prepare for the things that may come. We must live and not just plan. We can't just prepare. We can't just sit there and say, one day. Today is the day. We want God to open the eyes of our hearts so that we can see Him and that we are no longer shackled and bound and stuck. As we sang earlier, we believe, and there's so many things that we claim that we believe, and we are called to live full and holy lives. And Jesus says, go and preach and teach and baptize, make disciples of all nations. This is the great commandment, or the great commission. And we are told to do this. The great commandment is love one another. Are you able to? Are you willing to? Is this something that you're going to make the most out of your opportunities in? Or are you going to squander things and potentially send people to hell? What's important? Let's see if we can live that way. God bless you.